Good morning, Indiana. Welcome to Who's Left This Week, the Sunday morning news and politics show for our state without the MAGA lies and BS. My name's Scott Aaron Rogers. I am broadcasting live from Bloomington. Happy race day if you celebrate, and also go Pacers. Let's welcome our incredible panel here with us today. First of all, 2026 Indiana Secretary of State candidate Blythe Potter. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So glad to have you. And her old ball and chain, District 47 House candidate Michael Potter. Welcome,
Hello,
Mike.
thanks for having us. Thank you.
And finally, there is Project Next co-founder and my dear friend, Sarah Blessing. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on. I'm so excited about your new show, Scott, and just really proud of you.
I am so glad to be doing this with you guys. We were supposed to have Brian Tincher here with us today. Unfortunately, he had something come up at the last minute, so it's just going to be the four of us. But hey, let's get down to it. We're going to start today, just like we did last week, with the national news. And let's see here. There we are. Boom. I want to start with former President Joe Biden, who was diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has metastasized to the bone. Scary sounding stuff. Meanwhile, while that is going on, you've got CNN personality Jake Tapper going around selling his book, talking about Biden's mental acuity during his time in office. I don't know, man. It seems a little gross. What do you guys think? I'm going to start with Michael.
Yeah, I don't know if it's unfortunate timing or just a bad coincidence. It's an unfortunate situation for the president, and I think both questions need to be asked. Obviously, his current health is important, and treating that, and folks having empathy for that, giving him strength. I think asking about his health during his time as president is a valid question. But I don't think there needs to be a conspiracy around it. I'll let the others address that.
Yeah, absolutely. Blythe, what do you think?
I know cancer can be random and aggressive, which it seems that this could be. And the timing of it seems like perhaps this is, when he entered office in January of 2021, it was probably a month or two after that he had like prostate exams or whatever. So it kind of seems like it could be legit. But there were definitely times, how many of us watching the debate last year with him like turned it off after a few minutes because we're like, oh my, are we allowed to cuss on this? Like, oh my God, I cannot watch this. It is painful. So I think we as Americans have a hard time believing two things to be true. That Joe Biden did a lot of good things for our country. There are a lot of things he could have done better. And that he and Donald Trump, and likely many presidents before them, maybe didn't disclose as much about their health as possible. That doesn't mean we should capitalize on it.
Yeah. Sarah, what do you think about Tapper and CNN? They're like promoting it during their shows. The whole thing feels kind of sleazy to me.
I agree with the sleazy, and I also agree that's what works in today's society and gets attention. We're all fighting for attention, so I get it. Why I also think it is nauseating. I agree with what everybody said about Biden. I care about him as a person. I really admire him. His wife and little daughter died in a car crash, and then he lost his son to brain cancer, and then his other son had a drug problem. This man has had a difficult life, and I think it's made him very empathetic and wonderful. I agree with you that I think a lot of presidential doctors are not as forthcoming with people's health as president's health as we like to think they are, but let's like grow up and live in the real world. And while I really worry and hope for the best for Joe Biden, I respect him a lot and care about him as a person. I also am upset because if if he would have dropped out of the race sooner, when they probably
Yeah.
knew his mental health and his physical health behind the scenes better than we did before that debate, if we would have gotten Kamala in a couple months earlier, our life could look a lot differently right now. And so I see that and I'm frustrated, and it's humans being humans. We all mess up, and this mistake might have cost us this election.
Yeah, and this whole debate, I think, right now is kind of setting the Democratic Party at itself, which we will come back to later at the end here. But I would want to move on to the next story, and well, the next set of stories, really, because are we ready to call the Trump regime fascist yet? Like, I mean, I have been, but you know, maybe the rest of the world isn't ready. First, the acting U.S. attorney for the state of New Jersey, Trump's former personal lawyer, Alina Habba, charged New Jersey Congresswoman LaMonica McIver with assault for an incident at an ICE facility in Newark, where she was attempting to exercise her right to congressional oversight. Blythe, we're arresting sitting Congress people and judges and stuff now. Sounds fascist to me.
It sounds fascist, and it's so weird because growing up, my friends and I would call like our school administration fascists. So it seems like, which I know is extreme, but it just seems like, is this really happening? But I think it is. It is happening, and I think it's also interesting how many of these people who are being made examples of are people of color, or females, or part of the global majority. And it's hard because, you know, in the moment, she had the right to do that. And that we need Democrats to be standing up and doing exactly that. That is what we are all screaming at the top of our lungs for, from our leadership, our electeds, our candidates. But at the same time, we also know going into protests that when things start to get violent or someone starts to be detained or whatever, like we should be like joining, making ourselves larger, connecting, sitting, like, I don't know. I feel very conflicted by this. And in the moment, it's so hard that it's like, well, what would I have done? Right.
Yeah.
I probably would have done exactly what she had, because I think that's my nature, is to stand up for what's right. We would not be here if we all didn't think we need to be doing what's right. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening, and why more people are not standing up, and why Congress and this administration, why this administration and the majority of Congress think that this kind of behavior is okay. I don't understand. It seems absolutely crazy, and I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm running, is because as I saw this coming and what was happening was like, I can't sit on the sideline, and so I'm not going to be able to solve it alone, but you know, just try to be one piece of the puzzle, give people another option, and hope we can fight for change.
Yeah. Sarah, where are the Republicans here? Where's the party of limited government?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that there's two reasons they're not being louder about what is clearly alarming and scary. One, a lot of people don't know. A lot of people aren't seeing it. They're working multiple jobs. They're struggling to put food on the table, to pay in Indiana their expensive energy bills that are just going to go up, their expensive property tax bills that are just going to keep rising. They're, you know, maybe some of them are realizing public education is being defunded, but they got a lot on their plate just surviving on their own. And it is because I have a husband that is very smart and makes a good amount of money, that I have the time to do Project Next and to fight for these people. So there are a lot of Republicans or people that don't vote that don't know. They're just surviving. Maybe they have medical bills they're paying for, or people that are sick, or they are sick. There's a lot going on in our country. That's one. The other one is the people in power that do see it and are scared. They are scared that if they voice it, they will be silenced by their own party.
Yeah.
And I have that happening in Harrison County since it's where I live. It's 100% Republican controlled. The good friends that I have that talk to me privately will not publicly say anything because they fear the few people in power will kick them off, will gatekeep and kick them out. And there are Republicans in Harrison County that have spoken up. But guess what? They lost their positions of power. They're gone now. So there were some. And if you don't toe that line, you're out. So I think those are the two main reasons. I know that there are other things, but it is sad. And I wish more people would do the right thing, but it's hard. And I want Republicans to unite and fight together. You know, I want them to not go in alone so that they get kicked out. They got to find their other people that care, and they got to work together and counteract these people in power that are doing bad things.
I will say one thing. I am confident that the Congresswoman is going to be able to get out of this. The MacGyvers are good at escaping sticky situations.
I like that.
Yes. Now, on a more serious note, the Trump regime is either pursuing or has agreed to deportation agreements with various countries across the world, where they're going to send our deportees beyond the scope of U.S. law. Sarah, have you seen this sort of thing anywhere before? Does that ring a bell?
It's just a bully. It's a bully with a lot of power. They have, like 5 main plays that they do, and they work like 90% of the time, which sucks. Bullies bully. And why do they do it? Because it works. People are scared. They don't know how to go after. I mean, we've studied World War II. We know good people turned in people and got them murdered so that they could save their own family. We know it happens. It's going to keep happening because humans are humans unless we organize and fight back, which we are. It's just hard.
Yeah, and we already know about the horrible CCOT in El Salvador, where they've been sending a lot of immigrants. Just earlier this week, a judge said, "Hey, I think you guys are in contempt of my order because they sent a couple immigrants from like Myanmar and Vietnam, Southeast Asia, and they sent them to South Sudan, a war-torn country." Some of the other countries on this list they're talking about sending people to are like Kosovo, Ukraine. They're like gonna deport people from our country and send them to like active war zones. Blythe, I'm not the only one who thinks that's totally messed up, right?
Oh no, it's beyond fucked up. And the audacity to even call this a deportation when this is like, what, I don't even know what this would be.
It's human trafficking.
It is human trafficking, because what are you going to do in South Sudan or Libya or wherever?
And we lose power. America loses power to get them back. Like, even if we wanted them back, do we have the resources to get them back?
They just get rid of it. They don't give a flying fuck. And we saw this happen with El Salvador. Like, we can't get them back. What are we going to do? What? Yeah. Like, what are they doing with these people who do not? Can you just imagine for 1 minute getting off of a plane in a country you don't know where you are? You are shackled. You don't speak the language. You have no documents. You have no way of communicating with anybody, digitally or otherwise. What are they doing with these people? Are they making them fight in wars? Are they using them as human labor? Like, what are they doing with them? And how do we answer these questions?
And the Supreme Court has said to stop this, correct?
And but that's the thing. Nobody's doing anything. We have these laws.
So we've had the court step in and do the right thing in this instance, thankfully. And I believe it stopped, or is it still going? Scott, are you saying the Supreme Court has said you cannot do this and they're still doing it? Do you know?
Well, in the particular case of the South Sudan deportations, that's like a district court judge. That one hasn't reached the Supreme Court yet, but like the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case has, the Supreme Court voted 9-0, said bring this guy back, and the Trump administration basically says make me. Michael.
So yeah, that's what scares me. Out of a lot of this scares me, but that scares me because we have checks and balances, and we just were like, well, let's wait and see. Are they going to listen to the checks and balances? And then once they don't, what happens next? And so we're in this waiting game where we're watching how much of our democracy is going to hold. Are we a king? Do we have a king now that we have to listen to? Or will democracy be able to fight back? And it's a waiting game that is going to cost some people's lives.
It's disgusting. Michael, do you happen to know, like, maybe in Germany in the 1930s and 40s, where they put their camps? Where they deported people to?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I hope that these places don't become synonymous with the concentration camp names that we had to learn about in history class. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, we had the opportunity to learn about them. I mean, that may not even happen going forward. And as part of the last segment and part of this segment, and we'll probably hear this theme a couple more times, is, you know, when we say we're organizing or we have a big tent and we welcome both parties and you welcome both parties on this show, this is what we're talking about. Because I don't think most people that consider themselves Republicans are in favor of this. But the way that party seems to be run, we're not in that party. So we're not in their meetings, but it seems very suppressive and don't speak out. As far as myself running for office, I don't have any, I'm not in it for power. Right. And so, maybe I don't understand what they're looking to get out of their politics. I just want to help people. I thought that's what politics and being an elected official, maybe not what politics is about, but being an elected official is about. Right. Is being the voice for the people, and that's it. And so even topics that I don't agree on or see exactly the same as my district, I will support them because that's where they want their voice to be voiced on certain positions. So I hope Republicans again start joining in these conversations. They can be at odds about how to get out of this, but I think we all want out of this sort of situation.
And I'm just going to make a plea for Republicans watching this. Please message us. We welcome you on our show. We need more Republican voices. I'm finding some, but a lot of people are scared of me since I ran as a Democrat for State House. Michael, I love what you said. I got into politics because I care about people and I want to make our community better. And then you meet people that have the power and you realize they're not doing that. And then you want to help get better people elected, right? And we're coming against these walls that are concrete and we have little, popsicle sticks poking at them and it's not working. And so we need Republicans that care about our neighborhoods, our communities, to speak out in loving, unifying ways. And please get a hold of us at Project Next. We want you on here. We're not going to yell at you. We're going to discuss and find solutions that are hard and work together.
Yeah. Hey, but listen, not all bad news on the immigration front, right? We're welcoming certain groups of immigrants into the country. This past week, the Trump regime welcomed a group of white South African immigrants into the country, rolled out the red carpet for them. Michael, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, I do. I like to watch the shows when or the news when these other leaders are talking with our leadership, right? That's where that news story was for me, and the way that handled the fact that they want to bring these folks here. That's no surprise. I mean, so now 4 months in, we're kind of getting what what the plan is. We read Project 2025, and it's just kind of, we're going through the steps of it now. But I like to see these other leaders stand up and just call out the BS and again try to move forward. And like, what are you talking about? None of this makes sense. And we started the show with some of the cognitive decline of our older leadership, whether again it's the president or Congress, and a combination of power and age in this sense. It seems to be a big problem for our president.
Yeah. He's certainly not the only one who has some mental deficiencies, but people don't want to talk about that one. Sarah, I think Michael was referencing, he's talking about other leaders standing up. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa was in the White House, and just like they ambushed Zelensky a few months ago, they ambushed Ramaphosa this week and made him sit through some presentation about white genocide in South Africa, which completely false.
And it looked really fake.
Happening.
Like the propaganda looked fake, but apparently we see that Trump is being tricked by the propaganda, and he's showing it to a legit other leader of another country. I think they did such a good job, the people of South Africa, because I think they were warned ahead of time. I think they knew it was coming, because it's a popular conspiracy theory out there on the internet right now. So I am proud of those leaders of the country to be able to explain to Trump that wasn't true. I believe they brought in white golfers. Is that true? Something about white golfers from South Africa.
Yeah. Ramaphosa was accompanied by a couple of white South African golfers.
And Trump loves golfing. That was pretty smart of them. And I'm sure they were very flattering of Trump. He likes flattery. And I think they just were really kind to him, praising him, and then saying, we just want to let you know this isn't true. And I think that's the way you have to do that with this person. Praise them, really kindly and gently explain that that's not true. And I think that's actually a good model for a lot of these people being tricked by this propaganda. I think all of us can look at, not everything, but a lot of us, we can tell when something's AI generated and it's fake. Like there was a picture during some hurricane flooding or something where Trump was wading through the water, saving people or something. And I had a friend that was tricked by it. And I was like, it looks really obviously AI, but not everybody can tell. And our job is to not make fun of those people, but to empathetically, compassionately explain the signs of how do we realize it's AI so they can learn and grow. And then the next time, maybe they won't be tricked. I think that's the way we have to handle this, because fake stuff on the internet is more of a problem now than it was just a few years ago.
Yeah. I want to move on. Big, beautiful bill that Trump was talking about. The House passed this massive reconciliation bill that contains all of Trump's budget priorities and whatnot. Article in The Atlantic described it as the largest transfer of wealth in American history. From the lower classes to the wealthy. Blythe, is the Senate gonna pass this thing? Or are they gonna shoot it down?
I hope they shoot it down. I have no hopes for our Indiana senators to do the right thing. I honestly, so I am just totally at a loss for all of this, because a lot of the justification for voting for Trump is the economy. We're going to fix the economy. Or, oh, he's not going to do that. Well, he's doing that. And it still isn't resonating with people. It's not even being talked about in mainstream media, what is in this bill. And it's not even just the cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, and, increasing the billionaire's wealth. They're literally taking away power to hold him in contempt or to do anything. And not that the courts are really doing anything right now, right? No one is saying, hey, you're disobeying this order, we're going to act on this. There's still no accountability. But this takes away any future accountability, and it's retroactive. And not enough people are being like, okay, if this is not your sign that we are in a huge, huge, huge shitstorm, I don't really know what is. So I don't know. I hope not. I hope not. I hope the Senate does the correct thing. And I know there will be amendments and all sorts of other bullshit, but
Yeah.
I no longer am optimistic that anyone is doing the right thing, that are elected officials or party leadership for that matter, because it just hasn't happened yet. We're almost in June. We're still getting worse.
Michael, is this a case of just like stuffing everything into this one big bill and making it so massive that nobody can really figure out what all is in it?
Oh, he's
Oh,
on mute. You're
Michael.
on mute.
Sorry, I want to make sure we don't have that echo here in the house.
You're fine.
So yes, I think it's much like what we are seeing in Indiana, or saw in Indiana with Senate Bill 1, things getting thrown in at the last minute, voting on it in the middle of the night, or arguing it in the middle of the night. And why do they have to show up with their face covered to go and vote? How does that sound like a bill that you want to vote on, or that your constituents want? If you can't put your face in front of constituents, and I'm not saying I ever make all the right decisions, or I would make all the right decisions, but again, if you're elected, your job is to stand in front of those people and say, this is what I did and this is why, and I'll stand here before you and you can ask me questions. Like, that is the job, and they are derelict in that duty. And I don't understand why people vote that way for that type of person. And I hope, through campaigning, I get to learn about, what people want, and maybe, that's what we want. And obviously then they're not going to vote for me, and maybe I'm in the wrong place. And I, 50 years of living, I do understand our political process. I'm not naive to it. I haven't been a candidate before, but yeah, it's scary the way they're handling, again, in Indiana and now nationally, trying to do this under the, in disguise or in back rooms sort of thing.
Yeah. Blythe said she doesn't trust Indiana's senators to do the right thing. Well, one of them was in the news this week. Jim Banks was in the White House when Trump announced his plans for a Golden Dome missile defense system. Now Israel's got this Iron Dome thing, and he's basing it off of that. Well, Israel's very tiny. I don't know how you're going to cover the entire landmass of the United States with a missile defense system, or if it's even practical or affordable. But Banks was touting Indiana jobs as a part of this thing. Sarah, is it worth the jobs?
No, I think we all know that this bill is terrible. I want to talk about our senator, Todd Young, who openly said he was not supporting Trump when Trump ran for president, which was pretty brave of him as an Indiana Republican senator. And he did, he has voted no on terrible Trump-led things since Trump has been reelected. But then they started putting so much Republican pressure on him, talking of primarying him. He is up for election in November 26th, and he is getting.
I don't think he
Democrats
is actually,
angry.
but I'll check that.
Yeah. Maybe he's not anymore. He's getting Democrats angry. He's getting Republicans angry. He is a smarter person. I honestly don't think Todd Young is a monster of a person. I think he is succumbing to political pressure of his party and what this party looks like now. And I'm very hopeful. I'm hopeful Todd Young votes no. So let's talk about this after this vote happens. I want to know, how does he vote? Let's talk about it, because this guy is smarter. He is a true conservative. We think differently on things, but I genuinely think, Young's not up for re-election until 28 is what Terry just said. So maybe I was wrong about that. Sorry. So anyway, I just want to see what he does, and I'm hopeful that he does the brave thing, which is really hard. And I think people people that don't have power don't realize how hard it is. You don't realize daily bullying, the toll it takes on a human being.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of pressure from all sides for sure. Talking about these Indiana senators makes it a good time, I think, to transition into Indiana stories and a little segment I like to call Around the Corn.
I like that.
First, Tuesday, early morning, back in my hometown of Michigan City at the state prison, the state of Indiana executed Benjamin Ritchie, who was convicted for murdering a police officer, several years ago. Horrible crime. But on the other hand, like, are we still doing the death penalty in 2025? Like, what the hell? Blythe?
For a pro-life state, we're very selective on what lives we give a shit about, and it's very frustrating. Yeah, I don't understand it. Why are we still doing it? I don't know why we're having most of these conversations in 2025, particularly when most developed countries have stopped with executions and things. I think it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Sarah. What do you think? Death penalty? Should we still be doing this?
I'm against the death penalty. We know there are tons and tons of cases where an innocent person was put to death. We know that happens. I'm not saying that that person shouldn't be in jail for killing a cop. That's terrible.
Absolutely,
we should not murder people. But I personally am. My fundamental beliefs are that revenge does not solve problems. It just creates more violence. And that doesn't mean we keep letting a bad person or bad government hurt people. We stop that. But when you use vengeance as the tool, I think that's bad. If you guys have read The Hunger Games or seen the movies, at the end of the Hunger Games, once they take over the bad government, a bad person in power of the better government wants to make a Hunger Games for the people that were bad. And the main character, Katniss, shoots her and kills her to stop that. She's like, we got to stop the revenge. That's where I'm at. Stop the violence, so I understand humans' tendency to make them pay, but it just causes more violence. And I am for unity. Stop bad people, but unite people,
Along the lines, I think Blythe said that most civilized countries in the world don't do this anymore. And as such, like, a lot of the drugs that they use to perform these executions, drug manufacturers will not sell them to state or federal authorities in the United States. So we're basically like making up our new execution cocktails. Apparently there were some mishaps. Maybe things weren't super smooth on Tuesday morning. People are saying that not only is the executing somebody inhumane, but the way they're doing it is also inhumane.
You're very right. Yeah. There's so many people that have written about or talked about on podcasts and stuff that are at an execution, and they have come out and said what you're saying. It's very inhumane because nobody wants to do this. And it's also not a doctor that performs it, because doctors are supposed to save people's lives. They've taken a code of ethics. So it's somebody that's not trained. And think about the person that wants that job. I mean, what are we doing? We're hurting everybody in that room, and when we're murdering somebody. So I think most people on this issue are against the death penalty, except for those revenge people.
Yeah.
I wish we elected better people and we stopped this terrible thing.
Michael, is there ever an acceptable use of the death penalty?
No. I understand what we're trying to get at with that, but there's just been too many examples of missteps, whether it's a bad cocktail or the electrocution doesn't work, or they're actually innocent. And it's just documented too many times. So while I understand, the eye for an eye, as I says, we all end up blind in that case. So, no.
I have an interesting question on that. Let's
Go ahead, Blythe.
pretend Adolf Hitler did not kill himself. What happens after that?
Well, I think a trial, and he spent the rest of his life in a very uncomfortable jail, would have made a lot of people feel better. Honestly,
Is it better to make them physically, mentally, and emotionally miserable for the rest of their lives? Or is it better to eliminate that? Because think about it in modern day, if it were modern day, the accessibility and the privileges some people in those prisons might give this person.
I personally don't care if Hitler had a comfortable life. He needed to be stopped. His power needed to be taken away. That's what I care about.
Yeah.
I don't want these people in power doing bad things to be physically hurt, even though they're hurting other people. I want their power taken away. So I get the revenge thing. I get it. But just stop their control. Stop the hurt.
Yeah. Me personally, I am against the death penalty. In pretty much every circumstance, but I guess I wouldn't rule it out for things like treason or war crimes.
I'm mostly just curious. I'm against it, but I'm just curious. Like there are some extenuating circumstances with
Yeah. I mean,
prisoners.
I'm thinking of Osama bin Laden. I'm not sad that he's gone, but on the same hand, if they would have arrested him, his power was stopped, and he was in a jail, I think I'd be okay with that too. But I get it.
Yeah.
It's because I mean.
But they can still manipulate people from jail and still have power from jail if they have the ability to write or phone call and things like that. We've seen that happen too. So I'm just
yeah, it's a complex issue. I get it. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, and we will certainly not begin to solve that today. Along the lines of crime and punishment, though, fun story out of Indianapolis last weekend. An Anderson police officer had his vehicle stolen from his driveway, got his buddy to go with him, tracked the vehicle to Indianapolis, went down there off duty to retrieve it themselves. Vigilantism. What do we think, guys? Yes or no?
I mean, I think no. I think that's going to spur more violence, but I understand. I have empathy for the police officers. I have empathy for the situation. Did they get the car back and the person was okay? Like, what happened?
There was a shootout. Yeah.
Did everybody survive? Like,
I don't believe anybody was killed, but somebody was definitely hit. I liken it to, you ever see these like car chases and stuff? You always get the car chase shows on TV or whatever. Like, man, we got GPS, we got cameras, we can track these things. The shootouts, the chases are more dangerous, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah. I've talked to people that have, like, I talked to a man who messaged me a few months ago, and he wanted me to handle the problem of his son was run off the road by a cop doing a really dangerous drive, trying to stop some petty theft, like not a big thing. And they could have killed innocent people on the road. My son just started driving. He just got his permit. This is scary. So yeah, I think we should not do that. And I also think we should enforce that with our police officers. I'm assuming these police officers, has anything happened to them? Did they get reprimanded or anything?
You know what? I will have to check on that. I do not know.
Yeah,
what the follow-up
like
is
that clearly something should happen. That there should be some sort of review board or something so that, the police officers that have a lot of power that are trying to protect us, they understand in those situations, you need to use the law and not be a vigilante, because that puts other people in danger.
Yeah, sounds like somebody could use some time behind the desk to think about what they've done.
Well, it's blatant. He's off duty, and it's not even in his jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Like, that right there should have been like, okay, we'll let someone else handle it. Yeah, it's his car. I get that, but come on.
Michael, are you worried that, like, under a Trump regime, and then, like, you know, here in the state of Indiana with Braun and Beckwith, that, like, police impunity is just going to go through the roof?
Yeah. It's it's happening with ICE. And are you guys hearing me okay? I'm frozen on my own camera or my own screen.
We can see you.
Okay. And I think they can. I think they're going to start coming into areas with their masks on, right? No badges. We're going to have imposters doing the same because, look, I can do this and get away with it.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance, maybe some imposters grab somebody with questionable credentials, and then the police are happy about it and just let them get away with it. And then we've just taken another step, right?
Yep.
And so
that's what fascist regimes do. They deputize their supporters.
Yep. And I see it heading that way. I mean, I'm not saying I haven't personally run across it, but I feel like we're heading in that direction. And, I hope I'm wrong, or I hope we are able to stop it before it goes too far.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of vigilante justice and maybe folks that have been targeted by it, there was a profile about Mike Pence in the Indy Star this week, asking if he's going to maybe run for president again in the future. Sarah, does Mike Pence have a future in politics?
I mean, it's if his party's willing to let him, if he's going to stay as a Republican. I think that it's pretty divided among the party, whether you support him or not. I don't approve of a lot of the things that Mike Pence does, but I also really admire him in his biggest act of bravery, standing up to Trump during the insurrection. People called for him to die. He might have been murdered had the people not do what they did, those brave people that defended everybody. I mean, it was really, that's really scary. And so I personally am very thankful that Mike Pence was Trump's vice president. He did the right thing when he needed to. And I imagine he was in those back rooms during those 4 years trying to explain to Trump what really was going on in the way the law works. I actually have a friend who used to be friends with Mike Pence and like drive him places and stuff. And he says he's a nice guy. Like, so I want more people like that in the Republican Party, even though we don't agree with them, because they follow the rule of law, they follow democracy, and they don't agree with the King's thing. So it's hard.
Here's a question, Blythe. It appears Pence is not really welcome in the Republican Party anymore. I think in last year's, he didn't even make it deep into the primary cycle. He was polling at like 2%. Theoretically, I don't see it happening, but theoretically, Mike Pence is like, well, all right, they're done with me, but I'm not done with politics. I'll be a Democrat now. Would you welcome him with open arms?
No.
Would you welcome him at all?
He's only, in my opinion, he's just Indiana nice. He's passive aggressive nice. He's like most Republicans were like my mother, like, oh my God, how can you have these opinions and say these things and vote this way? Like, he's anti-abortion. He's anti a lot of, and it's not even anti-abortion. He's anti-human rights.
Yeah.
You cannot, unless you are going to say that everything they are doing is wrong right now, the entire Republican Party, which he is not. Everything they're doing right now is going against human rights. This isn't a Republican and a Democrat thing. This is a human rights issue. You cannot claim to be Christian and be okay with deporting people and treating people like that.
But do
He
we
has
know
no-
how he feels about immigration? Has he spoken about it? Do we know?
I mean, no, but I would look back at his platform in
The
2017.
thing I think of him as a person is I think he's one of these Christians that really believes that stuff. Like he really believes the stuff about abortion. He believes the fake propaganda. That's the way I'm picking it up. And that's my opinion just on like him being in Indiana and people knowing him personally. I don't really think he wants to hurt anybody except for he doesn't understand about abortion and then it kills women. I don't think he gets that. I really don't think he's an evil person. I think he is misled. And I think a lot of that is religious. He's religiously misled.
Yeah, well, that's Christian
Yeah.
nationalism, and that's misogyny. And I mean, yeah, hopefully, I mean, maybe, but he
Yeah.
doesn't get to take that lens as a public servant for everybody. You
But
don't
they
get to
are,
say that
right?
nobody
That's the
gets to have
problem we're
bodily autonomy
having.
because
They
you
are.
believe what you've been told. So I don't know. I like that he did stand up to Trump. He could have done a lot more.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been pretty quiet until right now. Suspicious much?
He wants to have it both ways, right? Because I want to say on all the issues, he is right where the rest of his party is, but he has to be able to keep on that kindly avuncular face. It's part of his brand, you know. Mike Pence is milk, but he is sour milk. I wanted to talk about a couple sports stories really quick. And this is not normally our purview here, but at last weekend's, I want to say it was the season opener for the Indiana Fever, a fan was reportedly targeted Chicago Sky star Angel Reese with racial harassment. This isn't the first time this has happened at a Fever game. Is Caitlin Clark's ascendancy drawing some of the wrong element to Fever games? Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, of course it is. When you draw more people, you get the good and the bad. And, it's so far, it seems like this particular case is being handled well by the WNBA. I don't know what exactly was said. I have read about this. Call me a fair weather fan, recent to the WNBA. Although I went to a couple championship celebrations back in the day. Was it? It was so long ago. I don't even remember.
It's been a few years. Yeah, those the Topeka Catchings teams.
20 years. Yep. I worked downtown, so I was able to go to their celebrations. But I fell off the face of the earth for them for a number of years, and now I'm back stronger than ever. So it seems like it's being handled well. I've had the pleasure of sort of general managing a professional sport for the people, and you are trying to sell tickets and, generate revenue, and it is hard work. And so people start coming in, and, we don't take, white nationalist surveys before we go in the stadium. So you don't know, address it quickly and firmly, and hopefully people wise up, and those patrons sitting next to those people, say, hey, you gotta leave. Like, I know we came together, but I didn't know you were going to say that. You got to get out of here. And kind of self-policing in that sense. I've been a huge sports guy. Played sports, still try to play competitively when I can at a regional and national level. And I get intense and I get fired up at, being disrespectful and fighting, and that there's just no place for that. It really sours the event.
Yeah, Sarah, I don't know if you catch any of this. Have you seen any comment sections or anything? It definitely seems like a lot of bandwagon WNBA fans, particularly Caitlin Clark fans, and this has nothing to do with her. By all accounts, she is a great human being, but a lot of her fans are making this into like a great white hope situation, and there's a lot of racial animus directed at players, particularly like Angel Reese, but not just her. And I think that's a slippery slope, something we've really got to watch out for.
I agree. I think that the online bullying and the bullying that happens in sports events can be very similar. People get very worked up online, take things personally, and the same, like it's so emotional sports, especially if like your kid is involved or it's a team you love so much that your rational brain doesn't get hurt as much. And so people make wrong calls. And then, like Michael said, we don't know what type of people we're putting in that room to watch an intense event. So bad stuff happens. I feel like the pro athletes, for the most part, I think are pretty wonderful and have to handle a lot of pressure. And like we're all human. When people say mean things to you, sexist, racist, whatever comments, it hurts no matter how strong you are. And I think just admitting that these athletes are humans too, and they're not perfect and they're doing their best, I think is important to remember. But I think because we think they're rich or we think they're better than because they have these abilities that we don't have, that we forget our empathy.
Yeah, very, very, very true. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about here in the Indiana stories this week is a big one. Indianapolis Colts owner Jim Irsay passed away the other day, age 65. Boy, you know, too young to be passing away. Blythe, do you have thoughts on Mr. Irsay?
It's so sad. It's so young. Like I'm 20 years away from that almost. My husband's 15 years away from that. And it's always tragic to see that, especially with someone who has so much wealth to, you would think, prevent that. It's very sad.
Yeah, you know, Irsay was a troubled individual. He struggled with alcoholism and addiction throughout his life. And listen, I am a leftist. Nepo babies and billionaires are my nemesis, but the Irsay family, I think, has done a lot of good for Indianapolis.
Yeah, my brother talks about this. I don't know much. I just know stuff from him, and he was explaining what you're saying, that it's a very complex situation. This man has had an interesting life, but he seems to he's trying to do good for Indianapolis and for Indiana with this sports team. Like, it helps our state to have a good sports team, right? It helps our economy. So I'm not a football. I actually don't like football because of the concussion things, but I don't judge people that do like football. So yeah, I just hope that we can continue to have a great program. I honestly, I want the concussion thing worked out the most. If I was in charge, I would like change rules and make it safer and protect these people that get concussions and, you know, have a lot of problems from that. But I just want to help everybody and come to the table and have these hard discussions with football in general. And I hope that we can continue to help the state.
Yeah, Michael, you had a thought.
Yeah, I saw in the story about it, you know, kind of his life. There's a picture of him or a video of him squatting, weightlifting, powerlifting, squatting, something like 550 pounds. And, you know, it really doesn't matter how big. It kind of reminded me like, oh my gosh, he was like a big man at one time, right? He's been sick many times and had his struggles, but you know, some of those struggles come from that macho lifestyle and trying to keep up physically and then getting injured. Likely, if he's lifting 550 pounds, again, no matter how strong he was, it probably wasn't in the right way. So he's probably has back problems. And it's a lot of guessing, but as we know in our society, then you get that back problem, you get the opioids to solve it, and that leads to a crazy spiral. You know, so it just kind of reminded me, because a lot of times people do go to, you know, his substance abuse problems, and, you know, some of that stems, if from other things and getting started. And so, I recently lost my father, and he kind of had the same injury that led to some self-medication that, ultimately that wasn't his cause of death, but it certainly didn't help the situation when you're trying to heal. So
I didn't know that. I'm so sorry, Michael. Big hugs
my
to you and your
condolences.
family.
Thanks.
Yeah. I think you said that really well. And I can tell you come from a place of you've seen it in your own family. I think that's really wonderful. Thanks for sharing that.
I played football and coached football for many years, like 15 years or so. And, and the macho male lifestyle is really prevalent, and we put ourselves out there in bad ways and injure ourselves and try to suck it up. And, we have to have the empathy for each other and have to be willing to receive help and all that sort of stuff. And that all kind of rolls in. And again, this more focuses around, not his wealth or, his life, but he died pretty young. I didn't realize how young he was. And that's a scary thing.
Yeah. Growing up in Indiana, it's like he's been around forever. And yeah, it's scary to think, boy, he's so young. And you know what? I want to go back to the Biden thing at the top of the show. Guys, men, like Michael's talking about the macho thing. We got to take care of ourselves, got to take care of our bodies, maybe not for us, but for our families. Get your exam, go to the doctor, accept the nagging from the women in your life. It's really good for all of us.
And you should do it for yourself. I mean, I know that you're saying do it for your family. Sure, if that's what's needed, but you listening, you deserve to go to the doctor and get appropriate medical care. You deserve, if it costs a little bit of money, so that you stay around and live a full, meaningful life and love those around you that love you. You deserve that. I'm so glad you two are saying that. You're so right. It is such a stigma in our culture. We just don't care enough about the men. We expect them to be manly and suck it up and don't say, this thing looks weird on my body. Should I do something? You should just stuff it down and ignore it. And that is creating men dying younger.
I got it. I'm fine.
Yeah. I'm so glad my husband is not like that. I don't have to nag him to go to the doctor. And I realize that's different than most men. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's also important to talk about the fact that they can be role models, right? Getting these exams, talking about ailments, and being sick is a disability. People with disabilities can still function. So why can we not have this conversation, whether it be Biden or Trump or Ursay, saying, I am an alcoholic. I have substance abuse problems. I have back pain. This is a broader issue which talks about toxic capitalism and big pharma and these terrible cultural expectations. And we can break that cycle by having these conversations. I can have cancer, which thankfully I don't, but still make good decisions. I can have cancer and run a business and be a good mom. Like, it's not this or that. Now, if I'm being treated for something and the medicine affects my cognitive ability, that's a different conversation, but still a conversation we should have, right? Like, if in Biden's situation, he could have said, this is hypothetical, I have XYZ. I'm talking about this, but there is a reason why we have a vice president and other people around us to help me. I don't have to do it all. Same with Trump or whomever. I think it needs to be a bigger conversation of, I can have this problem or issue or diagnosis and still lead by example and be a role model for people with this disease or disorder, whatever it may be, and living a relatively normal human life. So I think it goes like, because what does that say about other people with cancer? It's one of the biggest things we have to deal with, or heart disease or addiction. I know in my family, we have a ton of alcohol problems in this area, right? Like, let's talk about it.
Yeah. It's. I'm glad we kind of opened this can of worms. It's a very, very important thing that we talk and have conversations around these things and not stuff everything down. That is, I think, the male disease that we suffer from in this country is just distance and closing ourselves off. And well, I struggle with it myself.
But isn't that the number one way bullies control us, by pointing out our flaws and making us scared to admit that we're human and we mess up? That's their number one playbook. And it works so much of the time. And we have to realize that that's how they do it. Calling you, or, you know, what are you? Are you a pussy or whatever? They're calling you out when you're vulnerable, and you have to say,
Yep.
actually, it's pretty brave of me to say that I'm not perfect and that this thing happened to me. And you have to just like call it out, which is hard, you know, without seeming like a bully yourself. But I mean, just realize that's their number one playbook, is to show you're not perfect. Look at this one time you messed up or whatever. And it's like, yeah, we're all messing up. We need to stop pretending that we're perfect. That's stupid.
Yeah, whether it's Donald Trump's physical, right? He feels like he needs to lie on that, or the implication. Just throwing it back to the start a little bit as well of Biden perhaps lying. Some people suggest, you know, that was suppressed. So are you saying he wasn't treating his cancer because he didn't want America to know? And that's a really scary thought, right? Like, he knew he had it, but he didn't do anything about it because he was president. Like, really?
Right.
Did
I
he?
hope
I
that's
hope
not
he didn't
true.
do that.
I hope not. Yeah.
That would be terrible. And I know this can sneak up. You know, people are like, oh, well, one, his wife's a doctor, not that kind of doctor. You know, and then the physicals, the annual physicals, and, you know, to suggest that he knew or a doctor knew and suppressed that, you know, that's scary. Again, I don't know if that's brave. It seems brave on the face, but the braver thing may have been to say, hey, I have cancer and I'm going to treat it.
I'm going to let Kamala Harris, who's perfectly capable,
Yeah.
take on more duties while I recover from cancer. I think that would have been the right call. But again, culturally, so hard. I get it.
Yeah. And this is all speculation. We don't know when
Right.
things were known. And so I don't want to speculate on that. What I do want to do, however, is say we are an hour in, and I want to thank all of you for being here today. Thanks to our audience. Thanks for the great comments. Love seeing that activity in there. And I want to move to our one big thing now.
Oh, yeah.
Last weekend. Destiny Wells, Indiana, she ran for Attorney General last year, ran for Secretary of State in 22, and then this year ran for state party chair, was unsuccessful in all those bids, but has a lot of followers in this state, a lot of support from Democrats across Indiana. But there was some controversy last weekend. She posted a picture of herself with Indiana Senator Jim Banks after it was a military event where they did like a ruck race or something. I don't, Blythe, you could speak to this better than any of us can. I don't know what that's all about. But people were upset that she posted a picture of herself next to Jim Banks. It caused a lot of fighting in the Facebook comment section. And I don't want to make this a discussion about Destiny or Banks specifically. You know, neither of them are here to speak for themselves. I am going to be speaking to Destiny soon, and we're going to talk about this. But for right now, I really just want to talk about party infighting, canceling each other. You know, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm done with her. She's, you know, taking a meeting with Banks. He's a fascist." I mean, yeah, he kind of is. But also, on the other hand, it's kind of my opinion that, you know, if you're in a position of power, and again, Wells isn't elected to any office at the moment, but she is still a prominent person in the state who has sway. And in politics, you gotta interact with terrible people. Sometimes it is the nature of the beast. Are we Democrats? We're all Democrats here. Shooting ourselves in the foot with these purity tests. And another thing I want to throw into this, are there any purity tests that we should enforce? Talk amongst yourselves.
I think one thing we need to remember here, and I'm only saying this as a veteran, I was never involved in politics in the military. She was on duty that weekend. She is a leader and a commissioned officer with subordinates and higher ups who were watching her every move. Clearly, there was media, there was an elected official, there was security. So you have a lot of people with eyes on this situation in person in that moment in official capacity where she cannot be activist Destiny. I know she's not an elected official. However, she's part of the party. And I've said this a few times as someone who's been on a municipal ballot twice. Sometimes I'm more dangerous not being elected than having been elected because I get to make different decisions and be louder or more assertive in certain ways than I probably could if I were sitting on a town hall board or a county council board. Because that represents, in that capacity, she is representing the United States Army in that moment. Now,
this is something I had not heard of in
Yes.
any of these comments, and I'm really glad that you're bringing this up.
I've tried saying that, and I've gotten shot down.
Yeah.
And to you activists who are listening to me, I hear you. You are not wrong. When my gut instinct when I saw that picture was, what the fuck? What the fuck? And also, I actually requested when I was in DC, Todd Young has a thing on his website where you can request to have coffee with him. Yeah. I did that because I was going to be in DC on a Wednesday. He had notice. And my thought was, if he responds, which he never did, what do I do? Do I take a picture to prove that this was happening and that I was able to sit down with someone who I vehemently disagree with to have a conversation about what the fuck are you doing? What do I do? Now, seeing what happened to Destiny, anybody in that situation going forward is going to have to keep this on the back burner because she just got slaughtered. But she was there in official capacity as a soldier, an officer, a commissioned officer with subordinates who probably disagree with her and higher ups who disagree with her and an elected official. What is she going to do? Go yell at him, scream at him, get herself thrown in Leavenworth in Kansas? But
you make a very good point. Yeah.
But do you also pass up this opportunity to sit down with someone who's making decisions about your life, your military, your future, your children's future, your party's future? Or do you get ahead of it? Because we've seen what he's done to Karen Talley, and we've seen what he's done to people who are trying to hold him accountable. He throws them under the bus on freaking social media. We've made national news because of this douchebag. And yes, Jim Banks, if you're watching, you're a douchebag, you're a jerk, and you're a terrible representation of our state.
Absolutely.
There's a lot happening here, but it's also okay to be mad about it.
Yeah, but Sarah, would you take a meeting with Banks?
Yes. Yes, of course. If I could help in any way, he has so much power over Indiana and our country. If he would listen to me and I could become friends who we disagree with, and I could use what I said in any way to help my children and the people that live in Indiana, I would take it and I would post that picture. Destiny is a badass. I love her. She's a friend of mine. I have watched her get bullied, gaslit, gossiped about in what she's trying to do for Indiana. She is trying to protect my children. She is trying to make people in Indiana's lives better. And she's doing it in very brave ways that make people mad. And I get their anger, but I just want to let you know, Destiny is freaking fine. People got upset about that picture. She knew they were going to get upset about that picture, and she's fine. So, we don't have to get all upset about poor Destiny. She's a badass. Do you know how much bullying she has had because she's a leader? She's a leader in the military, and she looks like she does, and she's a woman. She is a leader. She knows how to lead very strong people, mostly men, and she looks different than the majority of those leaders in the military. So she is pushing the glass ceiling for my daughter. And I am so thankful. And if I were you, Blythe, I think that's awesome that you tried to have coffee with Todd Young. I would totally post that picture. And I would say, here's what I told him. Here's what he told me. Let's see if he listens. You know, she didn't put on the post that she loves him and agrees with everything he does. She put on there in the first sentence, while we don't agree with most things, we can sit down and have coffee together and be civil. That's how we save our country. Pod Save America people were debating before Trump won for the second time. Should we go on Fox News? Should we go on Newsmax? Should we go? And a lot of Democrats were saying no. And guess what? Since Trump won, those Pod Save America guys are on Fox News. I think we should have gotten there quicker. I think we should be getting on all the right-wing media and explaining the truth. And if they say mean things to us, we put our big adult pants on and we handle it factually and empathetically, and we try to protect our most vulnerable in this country.
Yeah.
We have to try everything.
So, Michael, I don't know if you've heard this this phrase. Like, you got 10 people having lunch, and a fascist sits down, and nobody gets up. Now you've got 11 fascists at lunch. No, listen. No, Blythe was talking about Young. Destiny met with Jim Banks. Banks is totally on a different level worse than Todd Young, and I will say that Banks is if he's not a fascist, he's fash-ish. And so, do you buy into that if you break bread with these people, you're a fascist too?
Perhaps if it's your regular Sunday dinner, then yeah, maybe you are. But a one-time meeting or they come up, if a fascist walks into the Democratic headquarters, does the Democratic headquarters, become fascist? No. I mean, we still have our values, and if I'm sitting there with with the folks on this call and Destiny, people I know have a spine, no, we're not going to fold. We're going to believe what we believe, and we can have that conversation, hopefully civilly. Probably the hardest part, if Banks were to walk into this conversation, would be all of us not talking over each other and getting all of the problems that he is causing out on the table. There's so many. Where do we start? Would be more the fight than should we have a discussion with him. So. I chirped in on that. My big thing was, so if Destiny's out, then who's in? We're just going to leave a huge vacuum because
who's better than Destiny to fight for us?
That. I mean, most of the people chirping on there are not stepping up to fill that role.
Right. Yeah.
So, hey, great. Good for you. You can talk down to people. Great job. Yeah. So please tell me. And I tried to ask that, so what does it mean to be against her? Now if they run again, you're voting for Rakita. Is that what it means to be against Destiny Wells? And then they start backpedaling, right? Oh, I was a little bit loud on the internet when nobody was going to call me out. And mostly it stopped. And for some reason, I seem to have that effect on a lot of chats. They just, all of a sudden the chatter kind of dies down because it's like, I don't know how to reply to what is next?
This whole thing reminds me of in the lead up to the general election last year, a lot of folks, particularly on the left out here with me, are saying they could not support Kamala Harris because of her position on Israel and, not really breaking from the Biden administration, who I thought was terrible on Israel. Is there ever an appropriate place to draw the line and say, no, I cannot support you because this is your position?
It's the primary. The primary is when we voice our concerns. And we didn't really get a primary with Kamala. And that was really extreme. And what a time in history. But it's either Kamala or Trump. I mean, come on, everybody. Stop stop thinking somebody has to be 100% right on everything. I understand people are dying and I'm horrified by it, but it was either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. And I personally thought it was a mistake that some of my friends are still making on going that far, and they're allowed to. I'm still going to love them and support them and care about them. Personally, I think we have to do all we can to protect our democracy, and sometimes that means supporting people that we don't always like and agree with. We have to pick the lesser of the two, which one's going to do more good and less bad. We do not live in a black and white society. We live in all shades of gray, and sometimes both decisions aren't bad, so you have to pick the less bad. And we just have to collectively do that. And then in the primary, we try to elect the best people in our party.
I think, and this is something I've mentioned to a couple people I've spoken with on this, is that the fascists depend on black and white, all or nothing thinking, and just complete elimination of nuance, no shades of gray. Like you said, Sarah, the primary is a great place to handle this. Look, I just wrote an essay about this myself.
I just read that, my friend.
About litmus tests, and particularly on the one on Israel. And again, I'm not going to mention any names of who I'm talking about here, but if you can't come out and say, genocide is bad, I'm not going to vote for you in the primary. If you take AIPAC money, I'm not going to vote for you in the primary. But if my only two options come the general are that and a far-right MAGA Republican, it's a matter of harm reduction, I think. It really is a lesser of two evils situation, but you still have to lessen the harm, I think. Am I wrong here?
No, you're not wrong, but the larger problem is our system of politics. We only have two viable parties, which is totally inappropriate. The Electoral College needs to go, and we need other party options, because that makes a stronger Democratic Party. Because right now we have fascism and everything else, right? And I don't like that for Democrats, because that is not our party values. But right now, until we can get people, in my opinion, like myself and Sarah and Michael, who are strong Democrats who hold the party values, but also agree the Electoral College needs to go. We need term limits on every elected office. We need to be able to allow third parties in with ranked choice voting. We need to be allowed to have better options to vote, not just polling locations, but bullshit like we saw with the purge last year and things like that for voters. Like, there's a lot of other more systemic problems that are happening. And unfortunately, we are pigeonholed into it's Donald Trump or someone else. And that's not right either. And I'm not wrong. I am pro-Palestine. I'm anti-genocide. I am pro-human rights. And I wish Kamala had a stronger stance on that. Like, fuck you all. Palestinians deserve to have lives and their land. I wish she would have said that. She did not. So the people who voted third party are not wrong. I agree with them. But that's not how our system works. We've seen it happen time and again, and we need to remember that going into.
And that's happening in Indiana right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of division with Democrats. I had a very important meeting 2 days ago with Adam Dickey, Nicole Bolden, and Dana Black. And the four of us had a talk for an hour and a half. And a lot of it was, how do we unite the Democratic Party in Indiana after what happened with Dem State Chair? And it's like, you're mad about what's happening in Indiana Democratic policies? Yeah, get on board, get more involved, and drive better. But that's it, I'm out because they're not perfect, they're not doing everything I want, that's it, I'm leaving, doesn't help us. So use that energy of being pissed off about what our party looks like. We only have two parties that win most of the time. Be a part of the party that you agree with the most, push the things you care about the most, and work with people even when they don't agree with you, because that's how democracy works. And if we're not involved and we're not paying attention, That's how bad people get elected and do bad things. And so we need everybody. We need the extreme leftists. We need the center conservative, slightly Democrat. We need everybody in this tent. We need Republicans that see what's happening and don't approve. We need them to get more involved. We have to suck it up when people don't agree with us 100% of the time, and we have to push for better. And it's hard. It's hard, and we can't take it personally, and we can't get so personally upset and judgmental, and we have to, talk to our friends that care about us. Like I talk to you guys. I call up Scott sometimes when I'm hurting, and he helps me, and we just keep fighting for the people we love.
Michael, I haven't heard from you in a minute.
Yeah, we need to win elections as Democrats, and that so we can win votes in the House and Senate for the state, and it goes up to the national. But I like to focus on the state, and so we need people to be township trustees. We need people on the town council. We need people in school board. We need to fill these and at least contest them. We're not even contesting most of these races in most of the counties of Indiana. And,
people are too scared to lose. And it's like, who cares? Let's build.
Let's build.
If you've ever heard like David Pepper, Laboratories of Autocracy or Saving Democracy, his couple books there, he talks about the importance of just having somebody on the ballot on all these races.
Yes.
Because, like you said, you might lose. Right? You probably will lose.
I've lost 2 elections so far.
Those are votes that are going up the ticket. If they're voting for you, they're probably voting for governor and senator and president, and every little vote helps. Yeah, it's a team sport.
Like when you get your friends to vote for your role on township trustee, they're also voting for other good people. And maybe you don't win, but maybe you help a state house race or a state senate race or congressional race. Maybe you help governor, whatever. Yeah. So it's a team building. We're all collectively, even if you're in 100% red county, like I am, I think you guys might be, Blythe and Michael.
Very red.
It's a collective. We're doing this for the good of Indiana and not just, well, I'm probably going to lose. No, you're going to get voters. So we need to fill up the primary ballot. We have less than a year to do that. And I'm trying. I'm going to use Project Next all I can to help drive up primaries on both sides and get the best person elected.
That's one of my big things for Secretary of State. We need our county parties to be communicating and working together. We need precinct chairs for 2026 and beyond. We need surrogates for state candidates. And we just need to fill spots on the ballot. I hate to say that.
But we can do it.
People to be committed to this.
Guys,
put your name on the ballot.
Yeah, this is doable. We'll help you.
It brings people out. If they don't have someone to vote for locally, people aren't going to vote.
Right.
Yeah, because it seems so far away, right? Like, the Senate or even like the governor, it's like, well, they're up there. How can just little old me affect that? But if it's like somebody personally, that's going to get you out to the polls.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike.
I also, well, I just want to say, as Madam Secretary is talking about different involvements of the party, is my daughter, who, congratulations to her. She graduates from Zionsville High School. We had her open house yesterday. It was beautiful. It was great to see all her friends. Unfortunately, she has a week left to actual graduation. But as we all know, senior in high school, there's not a lot of school left. Anyway, so I went into her government class after being involved. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not like a political hack lifetime thing here. I just got involved because there were uncontested races. And what can I do? I'm not a big screamer. I will get out and scream, and I will get out and protest.
And you will wear a duck costume.
And I will wear a duck costume.
I thought that was pretty brave.
Yeah, well, my district, it was gerrymandered to look like a duck, so I ran for this seat. It came with a mascot, so I'll have other reasons to be upset when the next round of gerrymandering comes if they remove my duck. But the high school government class, I'm so intrigued by precincts and precinct chairs and I was really intrigued getting involved in the Democratic state convention and how delegates are chosen and then vote for who's going to represent us as a party in the statewide election. Really intriguing. So I, hey, do you cover this in your government class in high school? No, nothing about this whole, and I don't blame them, right? There's a lot to cover in government. And of course, then there's a lot going on in our government right now. That's very sensational. But I think we do need to try to steer some academics. And again, another reason to be winning seats, because we may not have the choice to direct academics in the future, right? They're trying to cut that out. So to be able to direct some curriculum and getting these 18-year-olds graduating, like, hey, you could like literally be involved as a precinct chair in the government process today.
Yes.
Right. And we want to get that to where maybe they do need to run and fight for that precinct chair. But on both parties, there tends to be a good chunk of chairs, whether it's Marion County and it's Democrat dominated, or it's Johnson County that's Republican dominated. You need to still keep fighting. And one place to do that is at that precinct level, and being educated on the whole, what our election process is, because it is a little more complex than just doing the vote. You can just go vote, but it can be a little more involved in then having officials at the polls. That's a whole nother piece of this that we also don't talk about a lot, is both parties need people there. I know there was some hiccups in Hendricks County last year. And because we were, perhaps because it was short staffed at the poll, we couldn't put up the proper fighting to, verify those votes. And then everybody gets a little sour taste in their mouth about the election process. And are they cheating? Are they not cheating? But it all stems from people just not participating in the political process from the beginning and just being a poll worker.
Yeah, you make a really good point, Michael.
Yeah. The Dems did not turn out in the last election in Indiana. The Republicans came out in full force and proudly voted straight party Republican ticket, and some Dems came out. But if we
almost 600,000 Democrats got their votes purged in October. We lost AG, governor, and U.S. Senate by about 500,000 each. Also, we know it was Democrats because we have a family member who was living in Johnson County in a nursing home. Their home of record was in Marion County, and they voted for me. So Diego Morales and Todd Verpita are partially to blame. Democrats didn't show up like they should have. But many
we don't talk about this part nearly enough. Yeah, it wasn't just about
this.
You guys, I just found this out yesterday. There is a documentary made by Mo Rocca, who
used to be on the Daily Show. Yeah,
he did a documentary called Electoral Dysfunction, and it was made a few years ago when Indiana was a swing state, and showing how crazy Indiana's electoral process is. And the park superintendent in Harrison County that just recently attacked me on Facebook is on that documentary. He's in it. He's in the preview. I just saw the preview, and there's Larry Shickles. And so I'm going to watch the whole thing. But it's called Electoral Dysfunction, and you can rent it or buy it on Amazon Prime right now. And it is about Indiana elections. So I'm going to watch it this week, and then I'm going to talk about it more. But the way Indiana does elections are weird. And I know in my county, they're going to be changing, and it's going to be harder to vote soon in Harrison County, which seems stupid since they're mostly Republicans voting. Are you going to make it harder for Republicans to vote? That seems stupid.
Man, that's a whole other conversation that I would love to get into. And we will at some point here as we move along on this show and as we move toward next year's primaries and general election. However, at this time, we're going to have to leave it here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to Blythe and Michael Potter. Thank you to Sarah Blessing, you guys. I love you all. You've been a great panel. I
love
will
you too. Love you guys.
I will have an interview show out over at HoosLeft.us on Tuesday with an essay later in the week, and I will see you all back here next Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. In the meantime, have a great week. Enjoy the race. Go Pacers. Until next time, I have been Scott Aaron Rogers, and this has been Who's Left This Week. Love each other, Indiana.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
Pacers.